Journalists in the last few hours have said that all options are on the table for Manchester United and the return of Mason Greenwood. So what are your thoughts on that? Should he be sold? We've got a poll running live in the chat for you in relation to that. We'll get into that and why Manchester United might be looking to do it. Apparently Sir Jim Ratcliffe will ignore the noise and make the right decision for the football club. Does that make you happy? Also, something I was going to be talking about anyway tonight, are the Glazers actually still massively at play in the running of Manchester United Football Club? Is this something we've just sort of ignored and think that it's Sir Jim doing everything, but actually Joel's as involved as he always is? We'll be talking about that as well. I think Raphael Varane's made a very, if we remember, Raphael Varane has made some very interesting comments about the amount of games that players are having to play from a more ambassadorial way of saying that footballers play too much football. If we have time, we'll come back to that as well. I also want to talk about Dan Ashworth, and there's been an update around that. There's also talk around Erik ten Hag from foreign journalists now saying that Man United are actively looking for a new manager. So lots to get into on the show tonight. It will certainly be Friday night led. It will certainly be interesting and it will certainly be passionate. But as always, try to be respectful. You can get your points across. I'm all for that. We've got a massive game tomorrow night as well. I am going to be giving up some memberships as well. We've got 10 memberships to give up tonight as well. So if you want to be gifting memberships, you're feeling in a Friday night mood, join the club. It's Friday night gift memberships night. I don't care if he stays or goes, says Mozen. I want clear strategy and plan of action. Also transfers ready before the window opens. Happy birthday, Mark, says Mozen. I think this is a great point. And this is a great point. I personally feel at the moment, and perception is everything, that the way Man United are running things at the moment is just a little bit grey. It's a little bit foggy. It's a little bit uncertain. I think whatever you think about Erik ten Hag, he's been hung out to dry. Where's Murta? Gone. Where's Arnold? Gone. Where's the CEO? Not here. Where's the director of football? Not here. Where's Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Don't know. The fact is, whether ten Hag goes or not, he's been hung out to dry the last 2 months. The media have gone in on him every bloody day. There's no leadership from above him. There's no visible, I'll take the strain off you. It's just strategic review. We might be getting this, we might be getting that. Bit disappointed by the start so far, which is why I wanted to talk about the Glazers and why I think they still have a big part in what's going on at Manchester United. But I do agree with Mozen. I think we do need to have some strong leadership. And there are multiple things we need strong leadership on. There's still Jadon Sancho. There's the future of Rashford. There's the future of Bruno. There's the future of a number of centre-backs. There's a lot. The manager itself, there's a lot of things we need. And Jack says at the moment, Mark, if I'm being honest, I don't trust Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And why would you? What has he done to make you trust him at the moment? I mean, it's not a nice thing to say. He must be given the benefit of the doubt. But where is the trust? And there's some very interesting quotes I want to bring in from a certain ex-player around the Glazers in a moment. Philip Sutton has gifted 5 memberships. What a legend. So what's this story, Mark? Well, it started with Mark Ogden in the SBN basically saying that all options are on the table with Mason Greenwood at the moment. He could be sold. He could come back. He could be part of the first team squad that flies out to America in July. Every option on the table. And it just stirs up the storm, in my opinion. I mean, look, this is what, you know, if you don't get rid of a problem, or not even get rid of a problem, that's the wrong word. If you don't resolve a problem, it remains a problem. And, you know, it's always at Man United over the last 10 years, it's always, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. It reminds me of a bloody, you know, when I was growing up, you know, we had a spare room. Well, we're going to do this, we're going to decorate it. We never bloody did. We never got round to it. And, like, United need to stop saying we're going to do something and fucking do it. Make a decision on it. Why have they not made a decision on Mason Greenwood? Like, who are you waiting to make the decision on? Oh, you're going to pass it off to Dan Ashworth or Barada. Why have you not made a decision? He's done well in Getafe. He's settled in Spain. People want to buy him. Make a fucking decision. Why are you still tantalisingly going, ooh, we might bring him back, or ooh, we might sell him? Like, why can't you make a decision? You bought the club at Christmas. Make a decision. Like, I don't understand why we can't do it. So look, Mark Ogden's saying everything's on the table. Mike Keegan, who's come out in the last half an hour, and his report says that United's working assumption is that Mason Greenwood will be sold. Expressions of interest from clubs in the Premier League and across Europe have been lodged. All options still remain on the table, though, including contract extension / loan and return to Old Trafford. Sir Jim Ratcliffe will ignore noise and make the best decision for the club, Getafe want to keep him. Player has settled and matured in Spain. Well, I don't disagree with any of those things. He has matured and he has settled in Spain and he has done reasonably well. I wouldn't say he's set the world on fire. He's done well. He's not scoring a hat-trick every week, but he is doing well. The options on the table obviously are there until a decision is made. There is interest from other clubs. I think the assumption is he will be sold, but it's interesting that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is saying, we're going to ignore the noise and make the best decision for the club. What do I know? Renate's gifted 5 memberships. She's the second gifter of the night. Absolutely fantastic. Transparency is needed, says Dennis. Bayern senior leadership are giving updates practically daily on the current and future deals, players and management. I would love to see my football club run like Borussia Dortmund or Bayern Munich. I love the way the CEOs and the sporting directors regularly give interviews and step up, and I don't know why we can't do that. It would alleviate a lot of pressure on a manager. Jack says cancel culture needs to end, bring him back. Probably the most inaccurate, insensitive and downright thick comment I've ever seen, Jack. What are you talking about, cancel culture? What about people who were offended by what Mason Greenwood apparently did and don't want him wearing a Man United shirt? That's not cancel culture. It's called an opinion that's different to yours. Cancel culture is not that, Jack. That's not what cancel culture is. It's a different opinion. You can say you want Mason Greenwood back and people can't moan at you, but you can't call it cancel culture if people want to sell him. It's called an opinion based on the court of public opinion. That's what it was always going to be. We can have a mature conversation about why you want him back, Jack. I presume you want him back because he's a good player and you feel we need a right winger. That's absolutely fine. But you can't say it's cancel culture because people don't want him back. I don't want him back. I'll explain why I don't want him back in a minute, but it's not for the reasons you think. Either or for you, Sancho or Greenwood to sack him. Yeah, that's not fair on Sancho to say either or Sancho or Greenwood, because there's different reasons why I wouldn't bring Greenwood back, and it's got nothing to do with anything to do with Sancho. Onkar, welcome to the members club as well. Krista's gifted 5 memberships. Leaf says, of course they are, Mark, in relation to the Glazers still getting involved with that. But look, what I was told, I can't really add anything to what Mike Keegan said and what Mark Ogden said. But what I was told probably, I don't even know, 3, 4, 5 months ago. What I was told is that if Mason Greenwood, look, let me say it how it is. From a business point of view, whether it's Joel Glazer, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, what's his name? Richard Ashcroft, not Richard Ashcroft. The former CEO of Manchester United, I've completely forgotten his name. Oh, fucking hell, I think I'm losing my mind. Richard Arnold, not Richard Ashcroft. He's sing for the Verve, happiness. Anyway, what I was told was that if it was just a business decision, they'd bring him back. They'd bring him back because from a business point of view, he is an asset and he's a good player. So they'd bring him back. That's what they would do. Of course they would. So you're always fighting against that, regardless of what you think you want to happen. You're always fighting against that. From a business point of view, they would love to bring him back. But I personally think he'll be sold. And look, 2 things I'd say here. I'm way past. It's funny enough. I went and stayed in Stratford last night. I was in Stratford-upon-Avon last night, which is where Shakespeare was born. And me and Mrs. Goldbridge, we went and had a meal, had a nice stay in a nice hotel. Not telling you what happened there, but we were in Stratford. And the funny thing was, we were having breakfast this morning in the same hotel, and I said, last time we were here was 2.5 years ago, in January or early February. And she said, how did you know that? And I said, because I remember it was the Sunday morning when it broke about Mason Greenwood and I had to do a video here. So it was 2 and a bit years ago. And that was the last time we stayed in Stratford. And I think that leads into my point here. Why I would not bring Mason Greenwood back by Mark Goldbridge. Point 1, we haven't had him for 2.5 years. I can't miss something we haven't had for 2.5 years. I don't miss it because we haven't had it. It'd be like a new signing. But do we need him as a new signing? No. So first and foremost, I don't miss him because it's so bloody long that he was a Man United player. So no, I don't miss him. So I don't really need him back in that sense. I know it's harsh, but it's been too long to say bring him back. It's too long. I don't remember what are we bringing back as well. We're not bringing back a 19, 20-year-old who could be one of the greatest players ever, a generational talent. We're bringing somebody in his early 20s who's a decent player. I don't think he'll ever be that player anymore. So one, it's been too long. Two, we need to raise money. We've got no money. We have to raise money. I see people saying keep Wan-Bissaka, keep Greenwood, keep Sancho, keep Casemiro, keep Varane. Maguire's doing well, let's keep Maguire. And then I sit there and go, well, we're not buying anything this summer then because you're keeping everybody. Well, Wan-Bissaka could be a good backup right back. Could he? Could also be 30 million quid into our transfer budget. Oh, bring Mason Greenwood back. Yeah, we've got Rashford, we've got Garnacho, we've got Anthony, we've got Ahmad. Let's bring another winger back that we don't need. And instead of pocketing 40 million of pure profit that goes into the transfer budget. So the second reason for me is he's not played for us for 2.5 years. He's pure profit that we can spend on something we really need. So that's probably the biggest reason now I'd sell him. Nothing to do with all the other stuff. I'd just get rid of him because he's not been here for 2.5 years. He's pure homegrown profit, and it'll buy as a centre-back. Just like that. If anything, it's almost like someone going, ta-da! There's 40 million quid. Because he hasn't played for 2.5 years. This player has not been a player of ours for 2.5 years. And we're going to get 40 million quid for him. It's like 40 million quid, centre-back, for nothing. For absolutely nothing. We're getting 40 million quid for a player that's not played for 2.5 years. And I can buy a centre-back with that because it's pure and utter profit from a homegrown player. That's the biggest reason I'd let him go. We've got to raise money in the summer. And I don't need to keep another winger. I need 40 million quid to buy a centre-back. So that's another reason I would do it. The third reason, and it's a little bit more to do with why he doesn't play for Man United anymore. And I don't think a lot of people will agree with me on this one. But another reason, so there's 3 reasons. The third reason I'd sell him is because I just don't want the shitstorm around Man United. I know exactly how this world works. I know exactly how this fan base works. I know exactly how the media works. And I know exactly how football fans work. You bring him back and it's a shitstorm for at least the first 6 months. Every away ground, it will be deafening. Every time he touches the ball, it will be deafening. Man United are going to have to handle that when they might be trying to get in the top 4. We're not a football club that can deal with that type of scrutiny every game for the next 6 months at the start of a season where we actually need to be a little bit progressive on the field. I just think it's a massive distraction, and I don't think we need that. And that will happen. The media exposure, the rival fans. I mean, I don't even know if at Old Trafford he gets booed there. Like, there are some United fans that really don't want him back. I don't want to talk about that tonight, but there are some United fans that don't want him back as well. So it might not only be away grounds, it could be at Old Trafford as well. And also, people hate this one. To the people who want him back, duty of care. He's got a young family. What about him? You bring him back. In Spain, he doesn't get any shit. In Spain, he can get on with his life. He can play football. You bring him back to the Premier League in a Man United shirt. You're going to get all sorts of stuff shouted at you every time. Look, football's a lot better than it was when I was a kid. But you know as well as I do, you take him to Anfield. You take him to the Emirates, you take him to the Etihad, it's going to be vile. It's going to be vile. And whatever he's doing in Spain is completely different to how he will deal with that. I just think there's too many red flags to do it. And it's not about, none of the reasons for me anymore are about what he did or disliking him or anything like that. You have to move on. Rehabilitation has to happen. It does. And time's always going to be a great healer in relation to that. But what you're going to do is if you bring him back, you're going to open up the wound and everything's going to go bad. And it could go really bad for him as an individual as well. If I was him, and I heard this a couple of weeks ago, if I was him, I heard that he actually doesn't want to come back. He doesn't feel that Man United dealt with it very well. He doesn't feel that he got the support. Not the decision last summer, but the 18 months before, he doesn't feel that he got the support. So I think he would be foolish to come back. I know some of you want him back. But I think you want him back for selfish reasons, that you want him back scoring goals for Man United. I don't think you want him back because you're thinking about how hard it's going to be for him and his family to deal with when he's getting slaughtered for 6 months. I just don't think it's a good move for him either. So look, overarching all of that, the big reason for me is we've not had him for 2.5 years. It's 40 million pure profit, and we can put that towards a centre back. And that to me would be what I would be presenting to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. It's as simple as that. And thankfully, none of it's about videos or audio, because honestly, I think we've spoken about that enough. And even I agree we shouldn't be speaking about that when making this decision. This is about money. This is about football. This is about a duty of care. This is about next season not turning into a PR circus nightmare. And I think we just need to move on. Simple as that. The leadership is very poor, says Nick Perry. Why is Sir Jim meeting Newcastle personally? They need to grab the club and shake it up. Looks like the Glazers have had a say again, says Nick. People championing Sir Jim Ratcliffe's quote of not overspending and needing time to spend big is ridiculous. Our numbers are good. No excuses to not spend, says Mario Franco. And instead of spending £40 million on Elise, we could bring Greenwood back instead and spend that on other positions. Your biggest reason is not a concern, Mark, says Jeff. Yeah, but Jeff, you don't watch football. Elise's completely different to Mason Greenwood. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. That's like saying, don't go and buy a new pair of pants from Marks and Spencer's. I found a pair of tramp ones on the ground and they'll do the job. And I'm not saying that Mason Greenwood's a tramp compared to Elise, but he's not. The point of Elise is he's a creative right winger. Mason Greenwood's a left-footed goal-scoring winger. He can put a cross in the box, but it's not what he's all about. The reason they want Elise is because he's something that we don't have. Mason Greenwood's another Rashford. He's another Garnacho in a sense. He's another Anthony. He's shooting instead of crossing. So, no, I don't agree with that, Jeff. You said countless times they have to give the illusion of all options on the table to protect the value. It's just spin by the press to pass the time, says Glennie. You might be right. Dest would be a good replacement for Wan-Bissaka, says Robin. And if you say Mason will be sold, his price will plummet. You said a few weeks ago, why the change of attitude, says Henry T. I'm not the CEO, mate. Greenwood in because he was only 18. The fame got to his head and made a mistake. His girlfriend forgave him and now they're happily together. We should do the same. We don't need to spend dollars on Elise, says Juan, which Juan must be Spanish for Jeff. Transparency is needed. Buying, yeah, I've done that from Dennis. Right, I've just remembered we have got, it is membership gifting Friday, so I've got to start gifting some memberships here myself. We're going to move on and we can come back, but I want to talk about this Glazer thing because I think there's a really interesting undercurrent in the chat already around something that, if I'm being honest, is starting to, get to me as well. Right, I'm just going to gift 5 memberships. Let me get that up. That's what she said. Okay, I've got another 5 to give a little bit later in the show as well. So welcome to the Members Club. Get your badge in. 5 more of you should just have got one. Right, next up, let's talk about the Glazers. So, look, are the Glazers still running things at Manchester United? And do you actually care? Well, I care. I care. I find it concerning that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is meeting with Amanda Staveley or whatever her name is of Newcastle to try and get Dan Ashworth. Now, Sam Wallace, who's a journalist in the UK, said that in the next few days or weeks there'll be an official announcement around Dan Ashworth. I'm like, I don't care, mate. Fucking hell. We heard at the start of February we're getting Dan Ashworth. It's the middle of April. Like, official announcement. Fucking hell. This is like signing Paul Pogba. It took weeks for something we knew that was going to happen. Why is it taking so long? Why are Newcastle taking so long? You know, what is going on with that? Why is Murta and our CEO gone and we don't have new ones in? Why is Ten Hag having to run the fucking club and then apparently we're going to sack him? If anything, INEOS should be rewarding Ten Hag with a contract because he's the only guy fronting up at the moment. He hasn't bought the fucking club. There's no CEO. There's no director of football. INEOS have been here for like 3 months and it's Ten Hag every bloody day having to stand up and take the shit. When are INEOS going to step in and start fucking rewarding the guy? You know, they're probably going to throw him under the bus as well at the end of the season. At least when Ranić got through under the bus, we had a CEO, we had a director of football. Ten Hag at the moment's fronting up once, twice a week in press conferences, being asked about the summer, being asked about progress, being asked about everything. And actually, they might fucking sack him at the end of May. And if they do, he's the guy that's run the club for the last 2 months because no one else is stepping forward and doing it. What's going on at the football club? Why is it such a mess? Why are we not moving and progressing quicker? Why isn't Sir Jim talking more? Brailsford could come in and do something. He's running a strategic review. Where's the leadership? And the interesting thing for me is, are the Glazers still running this football club in some way, shape or form on the footballing side? Because what I found really interesting was when John Murtagh resigned, there was a statement from Sir Jim Ratcliffe thanking Murtagh for his hard work. But there was also a statement that came out from Joel Glazer saying that John Murtagh's worked tirelessly at the club over the last 11 years. He's done a great job. He goes with our best wishes and he'll be welcome back at Manchester United any time. And I thought, well, hold on a minute. Is that not a big hint that Joel Glazer is still very much involved in running this football club? Because he didn't need to do a statement. He doesn't come to the games. He doesn't get involved in, over the last few years. But when the director of football resigns, Joel Glazer puts a statement out. And there's your clue. It's not the CEO. It's not the brand manager. It's not the marketing manager. It's the director of football. And John Murtagh is getting a statement from Joel Glazer. So I think some of our fan base, and maybe the media as well, are labouring under a misapprehension that the Glazers don't do anything. This is all INEOS. INEOS are running the footballer side of things. I'm not so convinced. A lot of the problems we had under the Glazers are now happening under INEOS. Long, protracted, drawn-out things. Now, I know firsthand from people who've worked at that football club that Joel Glazer got involved in a lot of things. Some things you would never, ever think. Like Arnold would go to Glazer and Woodward would go to Glazer about things to do with catering, parking, contractors, emails going back and forth. Very, very, very involved. You're telling me that Joel Glazer, who enjoyed all that, has suddenly gone, yeah, Sir Jim, you crack on. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't know, but I don't think that's the case. I actually think that they are still involved. And it's interesting because, look, Neville is helping out Sir Jim now, isn't he? But this is what Gary Neville said back in, I think it was October. And I wrote these quotes down. And a few other people said it at the time as well. Honestly, it's a worry. The reality is that it won't change while you have this cultural toxicity at the club and this uncertainty. We need Daniel Radcliffe, i.e. Harry Potter, not Sir Jim Radcliffe. I don't know how it can change. I don't know how it will change even if Sir Jim comes in as a brilliant businessman and is passionate about football. As a minority shareholder, how do you deal with the stadium? How do you deal with £800 million of debt and £300 million that's owed to other clubs? The football department is only a part of the football club. It's got loads of other parts to it. You've got shareholders in New York who want money. You've got the Glazer family who will still want money. I don't know how this will work, but it's a win-win for the Glazers. If he comes in and takes over the football department and does well, the value of the club rises for them. But if he comes in and does badly, then it takes the heat off the Glazer family. So I'm still struggling to understand how it all gets fixed. And, I and many of you have said this, I don't think that Joel Glazer is sat there in America ignoring what's going on around the CEO. In fact, we already know that the Glazers signed off on Barada in discussions with Sir Jim. I think the Glazers are involved. I really do think they're involved. I don't think this is the Sir Jim Radcliffe show. I think this is publicly right for everybody to say, let it look like it's all us. But I don't think it is. I think things are moving way too slow. I don't think things are moving anywhere. I think if Sir Jim Radcliffe had exclusive control of things, we'd be moving a lot quicker. Maybe it is something like he wants to pay £20 million for Ashworth, but the Glazers are saying we're not paying £20 million for Ashworth. I mean, that could viably happen. We always suspected this could happen. We wanted Ashworth in February. We haven't got him in the middle of April. Why? Why? There could be numerous reasons, but it could be that Newcastle want 20 million. And Sir Jim Radcliffe has said, let's just pay it. I want him. And the Glazers have said, we're not spending 20 million. And then you just get locked into this delay. It's It is concerning. It is concerning. And I just think the whole club at the moment, at some point, we will hit a point, probably in June, when you've got Barada, you've hopefully got Ashworth, and we'll see a real momentum around the football club. But June might be a bit late because everyone else is doing it now. INEOS will be judged on how quickly they get things done. And we do need to move a bit quicker. And I do feel that Erik ten Hag is the guy at the moment that's just being left to fend for himself and fight back this tidal wave of abuse and, pressure. And there's nobody there to help him. Murtaugh's gone. Arnold's gone. We don't actually have... I think we have a CEO, and it's the bloody guy off Star Trek, Patrick Stewart. Well, not that one, but you know what I mean. I've not heard any statements from him at all. Do we have a stand-in director of football? No. It's all a little bit uncertain, or a lot uncertain at the moment, and I don't think it's particularly fair. Let me just have a look at some of the comments we've got coming in here. I want to talk about that Varane thing as well. It was very, very good. Which players should we sign to counter success, says Love Johnson. Don't know what that means. Mark, I watched Leverkusen last night and I noticed that they play similarly to us, except they have the right players. Potential under Ten Hag is high, says Kanye. Mark, Ten Hag taking the fall for INEOS foolishness. Glazers in disguise, says Sammy. Yeah, I mean, look, I was thinking about this tonight. If I was INEOS, I would love Ten Hag. The fact that he's, not thrown anybody under the bus, he's basically took the pressure on himself. He's spoken positively about the INEOS. He's spoken positively about the future. He's spoken positively about their conversations. Actually, he could sit there and go, it's a fucking mess. I've got no CEO. I've got no director of football. I've had the biggest injury crisis ever. The sale didn't go through till Christmas. I got no players in January. They sent the left back that I could have used. It's been a fucking mess of a season, and now they're trying to pin it all on me. He could do that. Obviously, he wouldn't need to do it in that way. He could do it like Rangnick. He hasn't done that. He's towed the line, and what's the reward? Day after day, Southgate. Day after day, Potter. Day after day, Nagelsmann. I just think it's poor the way he's been left. And INEOS are not a speculative buyer anymore. They own 25%. They should be doing more. I think we're drifting. And also, I said this the other day. If Newcastle win tomorrow lunchtime, we're in 7th. 7th place is Conference League football. We could end up in the bloody Conference League. We're probably not going to win the FA Cup, even if we get to the final. We need to hold on to 6th place. And it feels to me that, the leaks from the dressing room, and it's being allowed to drift. There's no reason Sir David Brailsford or Sir Jim Ratcliffe shouldn't be daily at Carrington giving those players a kick up the arse, giving them a vision. The club's drifting. It's a very good point. When I watch United at the moment, I see some players who look like they're drifting. Why is Sir Jim or Sir David Brailsford not at Carrington giving him a kick up the arse, saying, giving him a bit of a, this is the vision. It feels like we're just drifting. It's so reminiscent of that Rangnick 2 years ago, drifting bad result to bad result. So Jim gave the Glazers a get-out-of-jail card to Mario Franco. Why are you surprised? Honestly, Glazers are literally on the board. Of course he's going to be involved in leading the club. Doesn't mean he calls the shots as delegate official. Well, they do call the shot. Mate, you started off so well. What a terrible comment. Of course they call the shots. They own the fucking club, mate. They own 50%. Well, you think Sir Jim Ratcliffe's making the final decision on anything? He doesn't own. He owns 25%. Ten Hag in, when's pro club, says Ant. I would love Southgate, Mark, says Stephen. And leadership is very poor. Why, Sir Jim? I've done that one from Nick Perry. Right, I'm just going to give away 5 more memberships because I said we would do that. Make sure you smash a like on the video. I don't know why I'm giving away 5 memberships. We've only got 600 likes on the video. Bloody hell. Smash a like on the video, you ungrateful twats. Anyway, let me do that now. I have to go into the back end to do this. That's what she said. That doesn't work either. Right, there we go. 5 more going up. It's Friday. There we go. There we go. That's done. Love that. Another 10 memberships given out tonight. And you say I don't ever give you anything. Great content and badges. If you want to give some memberships or you want to become a member, click the join button and do that. Right, let's have a look what else we want to talk about here. 51% of you would sell Mason Greenwood. 49% of you wouldn't. Very, very divisive. Very, very divisive. There was something else I wanted to talk about here ahead of that, and it wasn't that. Oh yeah, I know what it was. Just very quickly, I'm going to talk about these Varane quotes, but effectively, there was a journalist, a foreign journalist, I think they're based in the Netherlands, saying that Manchester United are actively looking for a new manager, which, you know, it may well be true. I can't sit here and say it's not true, but what I will say is the comment about Leverkusen was absolutely spot on. I've been watching old Ajax games quite regularly over the last 2 weeks. Not games, but extended highlights, and there is a real diff. The sad thing is the way that we're playing at the moment. You can see what Ten Hag is trying to do, but he doesn't have the players to do it. If you took Casemiro out that team and you put Declan Rice there, or you put Kimmich there, or you put, dare I even say it, Alexi McAllister there, somebody with a bit of mobility, straight away, we're not going to get run through all the time because you've got people who can run back quickly. If you had an Odegaard instead of a Bruno who protects the ball, we wouldn't lose the ball and get broken on so much. And you could probably do that with 2 or 3 other players as well. The reason the Man United system doesn't work, and what Ten Hag is trying to do, Ten Hag wants to get high up the pitch, win the ball, create chances, win the game. He wants to get his defensive line higher up, but he can't because he's got slow centre-backs. But what he's trying to do is score goals. And then when we lose the ball, teams break on us, but we don't get back quick enough. Now, at Ajax, they do that. Leverkusen, they do that. Man City, they do that. Man City press ridiculously high, by the way. They really do press high, and you can get through Man City, but the energy of a Rodri and a Bernardo Silva and a Kevin De Bruyne and a Jack Grealish to get back, they're always on screen. They're sprinting back. The problem Man United have got is we don't have the players to do that. We don't have the players to get back. They don't have the energy. They don't have the speed. They don't have the desire to get back and win the ball, which is why we end up conceding so many shots. But a big factor to that as well is we don't have the players to keep 70% possession. And Man City do. And Liverpool do. And Arsenal do. We go 50-50. That's why it's a game of basketball. When we've got the ball, if we had players who could keep the ball, we control the game better. But what we do is we win the ball high up the pitch. Bruno tries a 40-yard pass, it goes straight back to them. Rashford takes a 30-yard shot, they get a goal kick. We don't keep the ball. So if we kept the ball, we wouldn't get broken on as much. If Bournemouth have 10 shots tomorrow, but we kept the ball for 70% of the time, they'd have about 4 shots. The more we lose the ball, the more we'll get countered on. And the more we don't run back, the closer they'll get to our goal. So we need the players to do this, and we don't have the players to do that. Now, part of that is on Ten Hag. Going into the season, he did buy Mason Mount. He's been out all season. He did buy an Arna. He took half a season to adjust. Rasmus was a good signing. Casemiro, I don't think anybody could predict he'd go from Player of the Year to what he is. I don't think anybody could predict Rashford was going to go from what he was to what he is. So, I think you need the right players, and I think it's abundantly clear. Louise Herden, welcome to... member for 3 months. Nuno Mendes' contract is up in 2026. What's your opinion on him, says Sahil? I think he'll go to a better club than Manchester United, if I'm being honest with you. I don't see him being a Manchester United sort of signing. I know we do need to bring a left back in, but I can't see us doing that. I want to bring these Rafael Varane comments in, by the way. Really interesting stuff. He's been talking to I think it was GQ magazine, actually, and it was really interesting what he had to say. He was talking about how well, I'll read you some of the comments, really. It's all about fitness, etc. And basically he said this: I experienced the first season of adaptation in the Premier League that was truncated by injuries. That said, last year was very good, and I'm happy with my individual performances this season, especially with the resilience shown by my teammates who do not give up, even if we experience ups and downs. But he said this, the objective should not be to play until injured or out of shape, always saying to yourself there's a match in 3 days. It's really totally different from playing a match every 4 or 5 days or playing every 3 days. The risk of injury is high. It's difficult to maintain the energy needed to give the fans the spectacle they pay for. This is not the first time that Raphael Varane has spoken about this problem. He spoke about it at the start of the season. It's something I'm very passionate about, but I feel like, pissing in the wind, you're just getting spray back. We play too much football in this country for too long. And the Champions League, which we won't be in next year, is actually just a vehicle for UEFA to make more money. Instead of 6 group games, there'll be 8. There's potentially another round of knockouts as well. There's a Club World Tournament coming up in the summer of April 2025. I think it's next summer. It's game. And even in the individual games, you've got referees who had 6-7 minutes on in the first half and then 10-11 minutes in the second half. Players are playing too much. And this is what Varane's saying. He's saying, look, we as players, it's a big difference if you get 4 or 5 days off than if you're playing every 3 days. Players are now playing until they get injured. They're not getting recuperated. And, we've seen ridiculous situations. Now, Man United's injury problems this season, are they totally down to the volume of games? No. But are they partially down to it? Yes. Newcastle have had ridiculous injuries. Brighton have had ridiculous injuries. Spurs had 2 months between November and December where most of their first team was injured. Newcastle have had injuries throughout the season. We're going straight into a Euros. Then we're going on a US tour. Then we're going to be playing football again. We'll still be in Europe. It's not going to change. And I only spoke about this because we're a community and we've been a community for years, and we've just experienced as a community some of the most depressing moments this season when you go, he's injured for another month, he's injured for another month. And it's not, what I'm telling you is it's not going to be a one-off. You can ignore it, sweep it under the carpet, or you can face up to it. The officiating this year has been diabolical and nothing will get done because they don't listen to the fans. It's meant to be the fans' game. It's a dictatorship. This injury crisis will get swept under the carpet as well and we won't get listened to. But you need to start waking up to it as a football fan because it's a reality. We will have more and more injuries and we will have more and more seasons like this because it's unsustainable for footballers to play 15 minutes every 3 or 4 days. And that's what they're doing. The increase in minutes that a Man United player has had to play this season will be running into hours. It'll be the equivalent of probably another 4 or 5 games, at least. Just because the Premier League started adding 15 minutes onto every game instead of 5 or 10. It's huge. And we will have another injury crisis next year, 100%. At Christmas, there'd been a 20% injury increase in the Premier League from the previous year. 20%. I don't know what it is now. It could be 25%. It could be 30%. Might be a little bit below 20%. But it's a massive increase and it's going to keep happening. We're going to keep getting these injuries because it's just not sustainable to play at that level, that regularly, with that amount of stop-starts and that amount of minutes. I mean, the VAR stops themselves cause more injuries because if you've ever been on a run and you're running, down a canal or whatever, or up a tunnel, and you stop for 2 minutes and then you try and run again, you feel how your legs feel. It's not good. So we're going to get more of this, and that's what Varane is talking about. And some will say it's a really boring topic, Mark, but it's not a boring topic when you've had 60 injuries, the most injuries you've had in 50 years, and it's derailing your season. It's not. It's a frustration because it's not coincidence. It's not bad luck. When people say, even I've said it, the season's cursed. It's not cursed. It's not cursed. It's not cursed, Kirsty. It's a fact. The reason we're getting so many injuries is because last season, with a small squad, we played every 3 days from Boxing Day until the summer. And then a lot of our players went and played on the international duty. And then they went on a tour. And then they went into a new season. And what happened is, all the hard work of the previous season, they dropped like flies this season. And they've never been able to recover. And it will keep happening. It will keep happening. We're playing too many games. And unless you've got a squad of 30 players, I think it's going to absolutely kill you. And it's going to get worse and worse. And Varane is right to speak out about it. I think what Raphael Varane is basically saying is that I've played well this season. I've played a lot of games this season. But I can't play at the level I need to play every 3 or 4 days. I just can't do it. And that's what everybody has to do now. And, you know, what's going to happen about it? Because ultimately, if any, you know, what UEFA are doing and what the Premier League are doing is what the Glazers have done with Man United. They're rinsing every last pound out of the club they can before it's not fit for purpose. And we're seeing an increase in knee injuries. We're seeing an increase in longer injuries. Newcastle have had so many cruciate ligament injuries this season. It's incredible. And we're going to see it happen again and again and again and again. And I predict that next season, and for the season after that, and the season after that, injuries are just going to become part of our vocabulary. We're going to have constant injuries until something starts to give. And at the moment, UEFA and the Premier League want to play more games. You know, they'd love to take Man United, Liverpool to Delhi or Sydney and say, yeah, I don't care about the flying time. We are going to get more and more injuries. I said it at Christmas. A lot of people were saying, when we get our players back, and I said, we won't get our players back. You know, we won't get our players back. When you look at injuries, you get more in the second half of the season because of fatigue. We won't get our players back. We'll have, and we haven't. We have had 4 major injuries in our last 2 weeks. I think actually it's more than 4. Yeah, because Rashford's injured now. McTominay's injured now. So we had Lindelof, Martinez, Varane, Evans. Rashford's got injured. McTominay. 6 that I know of. Drop Premier League teams from Carabao Cup. Nobody cares about winning it, says Spencer. Elijah says, if we sack Ten Hag, we run the risk of our young core like Mainu, Rasmus, Garnacho stagnating under a new manager. The team needs stability. By the way, you're still a prat, says Elijah. Varane even retired internationally at 28, says MT90. I don't think he was 28. I think he only retired a year ago. De Gea says, Pep Guardiola today, we're in big trouble with injuries and fatigue. Eric Ten Hag worked magic with far worse squad and injuries. Do you think certain players can be dropped now that players don't have Merta to go behind the manager's back, says Savage? I think there's a few good comments in there. Sort of touched on it at lunchtime. I think when it comes to... Look, if I was Onana, Dalot, Cambuala, Mainu, Garnacho, Rasmus, Bruno, if I was those 7 players... I'd be getting together in the hotel room tonight or wherever they are tomorrow. I'd be getting together and saying, we're over half the team, lads. If this manager changes, God knows what our future is, because we are, rightly or wrongly, the 7 players that Ten Hag has really either promoted, brought in or trusted. Like Dalot and Bruno he didn't buy, but he's put a lot of trust in them. Onana, Mount's another one as well. Onana, Mount, Rasmus, he brought in. Cambuala, Mainu, Garnacho, he's promoted. Those 7 players tomorrow should not be listening or influenced by other players that might be heading out in the summer. They should be a nucleus of saying, look, we need this manager to stay because he believes in us. And next season, we will be starting games again. If this manager goes, 2 or 3 of us might be out. 4 or 5 of us might be okay, but 2 or 3 of us might be out. And who is that going to be? Those 7 players who will all start tomorrow need to start forming the nucleus of the team. Because if Ten Hag goes, their future at Man United could go for some of them. You know, look, imagine worst case scenario, Southgate came in. I just don't think I think he'd buy Ivan Toney and bin Rasmus off. I think he'd go and buy Calvin Phillips, and then you worry about whether Mainu would start. He'd certainly go and buy centre-backs. Cambuala wouldn't be getting a look in. He might buy his own right-back and get rid of Dalot. You know, it's a different story. These players need to realise that it might be easy to put it on the manager and let the manager get the sack, but the new world without that manager that's put his trust in you might be a very different world. And I'm hoping that those players... It will mean ignoring some other players who, you know, look, Casemiro might be gone in the summer. Varane might be gone in the summer. Maguire might be gone in the summer. Rashford's not doing anything at the moment. Do you want to listen to those 4 players, or do you want to be a collective group that gets together because you're going to be here next year and you're going to be part of Ten Hag's plans? I think it's, you know, and the reason I wanted to say that is people can be very critical of people like Rashford, and Casemiro's got it recently, and Maguire's had it in the past. But we can flip that around and say, but what about the players that Ten Hag has given opportunities to? What about the players that Ten Hag has brought in? Like, those players are more vulnerable than anybody if Ten Hag goes, because you might not be the apple of the eye of the new manager. So, you know, Cambuala, Onana, Dalot, Mainu, Garnacho, Bruno, Rasmus, Mount, you players really should be absolutely on it, giving everything, because you will, if you do, and Ten Hag survives, you know you're part of the plan next year. So, you know, that's what I'm hoping we're going to start seeing. I think they're leaking he may come back to keep his value for sale. I'm Greenwood out for the same reasons as Marks, as Declan. Juan David van der Burr, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Why can't the PFA step up and talk about this as Billy? Mate, I do a podcast, Goldbridge Saves Football. And the reason me and Will started doing it is because, you know, I do a lot of content on the United Stand. I've got That's Football. But the podcast was basically set up to be a bit of a soapbox to, you know, talk about things that need saving in football. And obviously, you know, that can be like, you know, Jordan Henderson should never play for England again, to VAR decisions, to the greed in football, and also to things like this. As football fans, it's our game. We might not get listened to, but it is our game. And I've been talking about it all season with some of you. If you listen to the podcast, I've been saying it all season. It's not sustainable. Football's not sustainable in relation to, there's almost this myth that the injury, it's just a weird season, all these injuries. Next season it'll be fine. It won't. Look at the calendar. Footballers need, we say it about Bruno, if you could give Bruno a month off, I think we'd get a complete, imagine Bruno with a month off, not injured, just a month off, light training, you know, not playing football, you'd have a different guy. You'd have a different guy. But if you look at the calendar of a footballer, it's getting worse. You know, Bruno Fernandes will finish the season, hopefully with an FA Cup final, at the end of May. He'll go straight into a Portuguese training camp. Then he'll be playing every 3 days again, because Portugal, that's how it works. That could go till the middle of July. He'll then have 2 weeks off, but he'll want to come back because Man United will already be in pre-season in America, and then he'll go into a massive new season. So where is even 2 weeks of a break for Bruno? It's just relentless. And then when he comes back to the Premier League in August, he won't be fresh. He'll be like, oh, I'm playing 110 minutes again. I remember you used to look at United. I remember United going on tour in South Africa. God knows what year that was. Was it the 90s? Was it the early noughties? I remember us going on tour to South Africa, and I don't think we even know if we had MUTV then. I think it was just like interviews, and I think there was some footage of one of the games, and the players just looked like they'd been on holiday. They looked like they'd been on holiday. They looked like they'd had, you know, some good R&R, and, you know, you'd watch the Community Shield and players looked fresh. They look fresh and ready to go for the season. That doesn't happen anymore. There is no fresh. If you're a championship player, the championship ends at the end of April, and you don't start until the start of August. So if you're a non-international championship player, you end up with about 2.5 months off. If you're a top level player, you're lucky if you get 2 weeks off. How you doing, Mark? This is Manton. Thank you very much. I'm doing well. Hope you are. Anthony Julian says, Andros Townsend, who's a Luton player, was on BBC on Monday refuting the notion United are a shambles, saying they're in transition and can see what Erik ten Hag is trying to do, says Anthony. You know what? It will mean fuck all, but I'll say it anyway. Arsenal fans were saying Arteta out, and they had T-shirts printed. Arteta out! Arteta out! I sat there on That's Football week after week, and I said, they're idiots. They're absolute idiots. I can see what Arteta is doing. And they wanted him out because Piers Morgan loved Aubameyang and was like, oh, he's disrespected Aubameyang. He's disrespecting Ozil. You know, we're losing games. What's he trying to do? And as a neutral, I sat there and I was like, I can see exactly what he's trying to do. He's got to crack a few eggs to make an omelette. And it will probably get worse before it gets better. I look at United, and I'm not saying for 1 minute that Ten Hag's Arteta, but I look at United and I go, I genuinely believe next season will be a good season if we stick with Ten Hag. But I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it. But I genuinely can see what he is trying to do. I've gifted my memberships, yes. Thank you very much for that. Arteta got the players he wanted. You know the big thing that happened with Arteta, Chris? And you can learn from other clubs, right? Take it away from Ten Hag here. Because it's the same under... Forget Ten Hag for a moment, right? Let's think Ollie. Let's think Mourinho. Let's think Rangnick. Let's think Ten Hag. Let's think Van Gaal. One of the biggest things... If I could say to Sir Jim Ratcliffe one thing, I would probably say this. The big problem at Man United over the last decade has been, multiple. We basically threw £1 billion on a bonfire. We recruited badly. Why are you spending 80 million on Maguire, 85 million on Anthony? Why are you giving them 200 grand a week when they weren't on anywhere near? I mean, look, Anthony was on 20 grand a week at Ajax. We gave him 200 grand. Jadon Sancho was on way less than 100 grand a week at Dortmund. We gave him nearly 300 grand a week. Harry Maguire was on under 60 grand a week at Leicester. We gave him 200 grand a week. Why? We're Man United. Why are we giving them, ransom money to come to play for Man United? What's that all about? Why are we paying £80 million for a £40 million player? So that's all true. But Sir Jim, the big thing I would say is this. The owners of this football club have never allowed a manager to sell the players they want to sell. They've stuck their nose in and said, no, you're not doing that. That's like having Lewis Hamilton in a Formula One car and saying, you can't go that way, you've got to take a detour that takes longer. It's like driving around Monaco, everyone else is following the track, and old Lewis Hamilton's had to take the one-way system and come back round. It doesn't make any sense. You can't win like that. And what Arsenal did do is that when Arteta came in, he did something amazing. I think Ozil was their best paid player. He had him training with the reserves. Aubameyang was a superstar. He treated him like shit. He didn't want him in the team. Didn't like his attitude. And he was allowed to do it. And the crowd and social media went mad. Who's this Arteta guy with his crap haircut doing this to Obama who? Obama what? What's all this about? I mean, Aubameyang was so popular at Arsenal because he was clever. He integrated himself with their fan channel. He'd go and do little clips with them. The fans loved Aubameyang, and Arteta binned him off because he didn't like him in his dressing room, even though he was on big money. Same with Ozil. Look at Arsenal now. They're competing for titles. They're in a Champions League quarter-final because their manager went in and did the equivalent of Ten Hag saying, Rashford and Bruno, you're off. Can you imagine if Ten Hag had done that with Rashford and Bruno? What would happen? The fan base would go into fucking nuclear mode. The press would want him put in prison for it. But that's what Arteta did. The equivalent of that. He took their number 10 star player, biggest earner, and their star player striker, and he binned them off. He bins them off. And that's what I'd say to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. You've got to give the manager the authority to do what they want to do with any player. But what we do is we'll go, we can't do that. We've just given him a new contract. He sells loads of shirts. He's on big wages. We can't do that. And that's why we fail. Because there's always a parameter. There's always a but. Jose Mourinho came in, wanted to sell certain players, wasn't allowed to do it. If that remains the same, we're fucked. If we're a real football club, we need to let the manager sell anybody. And we don't do that. Eric Ten Hag did it with Ronaldo and Sancho, says Mario Franco. Well, he didn't really. He didn't really, Mario. Eric Ten Hag wanted Ronaldo. He wanted to use Ronaldo. And he really liked Ronaldo. But Ronaldo didn't want to be used in the way that Ten Hag wanted him to use him. Like, Ten Hag didn't want to start Ronaldo every single game. He wanted to rotate him. And Ronaldo didn't like it. And also, I think Ronaldo wanted to go in the August, but the deal didn't happen. And it wasn't as simple as phasing Ronaldo out, because United could have done that. They could have got rid of him in the August for a decent fee, and we ended up letting him go for nothing. With Sancho, again, Ten Hag wanted to use Sancho. He could have got rid of him in the summer. He wanted to use him. There was a fallout because of the tweet. So it's not the same. Sancho and Ronaldo were not players that Ten Hag said, let's sell. They were situations that descended into, farce in many ways. I don't know whether Ten Hag would want to sell Rashford, but he won't be allowed to do it. I don't know whether... Look, he wanted to sell Maguire and they didn't do it. Mourinho wanted to sell Martial and they didn't do it. Rangnick said, we need open heart surgery. I'm the guy to do it. And they got rid of Rangnick. So, you can try and make excuses for the football club, but we don't do it. We don't do it. And anyway, Jadon Sancho's still fucking here. He's not been sold. He's on loan. Ronaldo went on a free transfer. So we don't do it, and we're not very good at it. We still have players here that multiple managers wanted to sell. United, until we get a clear out, we still have the same problems as Tony. Exactly. What if, Sarvish says, what if Murta was a snake and he was trying to get Ten Hag in trouble with player power to cover his own failings and got found out? I don't trust INEOS, but Murta was here to stay, says Sarvish. I don't know, mate. I mean, the truth will come out. There's no doubt about that. But I just think they need to get moving a lot quicker, if I'm being honest with you. Right, we're coming towards the end of the show. Let me pause that for you. If you've not pre-ordered the book, by the way, just scan the QR code or you can go through the link in the video description. Goldbridge's new book is coming out and you can pre-order it. If you're in America, just go to Amazon.com and you can pre-order it there, Audible or not. If you're in the UK, you can go to the WH Smith shop and you can pre-order it signed. What I will say is, a few people have said, if I'm living in America or Ireland, how do I get it signed? There's going to be book signings. So it might be that I'm doing some book signings in America, certainly in Ireland, Belfast and Dublin, and around the UK. So those things will be happening. So you can pre-order your book and come to the book signings, which would be great. Really excited about that. Please do keep supporting it. It makes a big difference. We've got an amazing community and we're only where we are today because of the community. Our strength is together. Thanks everyone who's gifted memberships. Welcome to Members Club. If you've got a badge, and check your FPL, says Del Boy. I gave up a long time ago. A long time ago. I stopped doing it a month ago. It's over. It's over. Thanks everyone for watching. It's match day tomorrow, but I will be in at 10 o'clock with a new show tomorrow. It's a 5:30 kick-off in the match, isn't it? So I'm on 10 o'clock tomorrow. I think I'm doing Newcastle Spurs on That's Football at 12:30 as well. I'll have to double check. But I'm on 10 o'clock tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Lovely show on a Friday night. Really enjoyed it. And I'll speak to you all soon.